Okay, we are recording. So, welcome to Typology Gifts. I'm Dan. With me today is Lynda. Thanks for joining me.
Good to
And
be here.
yeah, so have you watched any of the previous videos I've done about this?
Yes.
Okay,
And I guess you've changed your tools a little bit as you go. Just a little bit.
you've noticed that I do what now?
You changed your tools a little bit.
Like my recording tools, or what do you mean exactly?
After like the person that's doing the interview cannot see the screen, but whenever I'm watching, I can see the screen
Yeah,
and I can see that you added the axis on the bottom. I
yeah,
think in the first couple of videos you didn't have that yet.
that's true. I didn't, and probably because it was in my head and I was thinking about it, but it's nice to see it kind of out in the open. Do you like the format that I use?
Dude, I'm pretty visual, I feel like, so it's kind of nice to see it. I feel like I could see a little bit more about what you're thinking.
Yeah, right. Because you can see probably where I have like a question mark or something, and I'm like asking a bunch of different kinds of questions to try to get to the bottom of it, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
for,
so I'll have to be creative to ask you questions that I haven't asked in previous ones. Um, So, for the benefit of those watching, I am not going to point at Lynda and say you're that. I am going to just make an educated guess, and at the very end, I'll show you what my guess is, and then we'll talk about it, and then maybe I'll be right, maybe I'll be wrong, but at least you'll have a second opinion.
maybe
Uh,
I'll be wrong.
what's
I
that?
could be wrong too.
I'm
I could
sorry.
be completely wrong.
What,
Sorry, my husband has bronchitis. He's over there coughing. Anyway,
what was it that you just said there?
I was saying that I could be wrong about my type because I don't feel like that we see each ourselves like other people see us. So I think it's a good conversation to have.
For sure.
To,
For sure. Okay, so I guess let's just jump right in, right? I guess the other thing I'll mention is about halfway through, 30 minutes, you know this, I take a quick break, go refill my drink, think about what I've been doing, and come back and usually eliminate a number more types. All right, um, where to begin? Um, think of a good starter that's maybe different than previous ones I've done. Um, would you see, like, on the spectrum of, let's say, on one side would be controlling people and the other side would be manipulating people? Where would you see it more likely that you could fall on that spectrum?
um, well, if I feel like I'm being manipulated, that makes me very upset. I don't like that.
Sure.
Of course, I guess nobody likes that unless I guess you could be manipulated in a good way. So that doesn't. I don't do that very often because I don't like that. But I am pretty controlling, even how I load the dishwasher.
Okay.
If somebody loads the dishwasher and they don't do it right, I have to redo it.
Sure. But that's more
But
like that's
so, what do you mean?
well, um, like I guess I would say that
Like I control my schedule even.
what's that?
I control my schedule. I have a very controlled schedule.
For sure, but what I'm trying to get at, I think, is trying to understand. Oh, I guess the other thing I should mention at the beginning of this that I do sometimes mention on calls is that just that feel free to be as and it sounds like you already are, but I mean, feel free to be as open as possible about about how you are because I'll usually find my way there, but you might send me off on a rabbit trail, and I want to try to stay on the right track. So, but I guess what I mean is like I think everybody wants to be in control of things more or less, but we have different ways of staying in control. Some people are more directly controlling. They like to um, like for example, they may take control of someone else
Oh,
regardless of their feelings. And then there's other people that may control in a more subtle way, where they're like essentially guiding the person or manipulating them in a certain direction
Okay.
to more subtly take them in a certain direction. So where would you say that you fall on that spectrum? Are you more directly controlling people, like you do this and go do that, or are you more?
I like to be blunt, but I have found as I get older that's kind of bad. Like you
Hmm.
can't just throw it out there all the time. Sometimes you have to be a little bit more considerate. But I
Hmm.
am pretty bossy, and I do tell people what I want them to do.
Okay. Um, so that's a sort of like that comes naturally to you pretty much. You have a good ability to assert
And
your.
be in charge. They like to put me in charge, and I don't like to be in charge necessarily because I would rather just be in the background, but then they don't do it right, so then I have to help them.
I see, I see. So what is it about that you notice when you see that they're doing it wrong? What is it that you're catching that's making you
Well,
feel that way?
some things I catch is whenever people are talking past each other
Hmm.
and somebody's saying something and somebody else is saying something, but they don't realize that they're not really communicating. They're just talking past each other and they don't understand what the other one said. And so sometimes I'll step in and like just try to clarify for them. Did you mean this? And that sort of smooths out the conversation and they realize they weren't understanding what they thought they were understanding.
Sure.
Um, what was the question? Sorry.
The question, I don't know. The question was, fuck if I know. Uh, let's just keep going. I don't know. um, I'm always kind of in the moment. Really. Not,
I have trouble with that. I try to live in the moment, but to be honest, like that's something I've learned. My husband has helped me with that because he's crazy.
okay. Wait. So what has he helped you with?
He's helped me live in the moment
Oh,
because
okay.
what I'm doing is like if there's a party or a like even especially a wedding or something, I want to be in the background. I want to make sure everybody's having a good time,
Yeah.
and I want to that's I don't have to go up and people know that I'm there. I want to be the one that's just making sure everything's running smoothly, and
Hmm.
so I just want to kind of be in the background if I can.
I see. So so you want to be like the puppet
I
master,
do like
kind of like making sure that everything is. Uh,
yes to make sure everything's good and people are good.
okay.
Like logistics. Is
Okay.
there a cake for people? Did you think about this? What are you doing for that?
Okay. Um, how how well would you say that you? Let's see. When the people in your life are having problems, do you find that it comes very naturally for you to offer suggestions on how to fix those problems or how to move forward or get out of the problem?
Um, I can tell them what to do,
Hmm.
but if they start crying, then I don't know what to do with that.
If they start what?
If if they cry, like I have a really hard time understanding people's emotions. Just to be honest about it, like it's gotten me into some trouble
I see.
because I just kind of roll over that. I did, I know enough to know if they're crying, something is wrong,
Sure.
but uh, like if they're embarrassed, if I'm there and I can see the body language, sometimes I can figure it out. But if and so I do okay with like telling people like advice kind of thing, but if they start getting emotional and start crying, then it gets super weird for me.
Why do you think it gets weird for you?
because I don't know what to do with that. Like, I am not your emotional support.
I see.
That sounds terrible.
No,
But
everybody has a
that's
different.
how I am, like,
Yeah.
uh, inside anyway. Like, I figured out, sometimes you can hug somebody, which I don't do a whole lot of, except for my kids.
Sometimes you can what somebody? I'm sorry. Sometimes you're cutting out.
You can hug somebody whenever they're sad, and sometimes they like that.
Right.
It's, it seems very simple, but it is something that I had to learn.
And was the word you were saying hug or hurt? I'm sorry. It keep what
H-U-G,
hug? Okay,
H-U-G.
okay. You cut out both times when you were saying that word, and I didn't couldn't tell what you were saying.
I think it's a sign. I
What
think it's a sign that word I
hurt?
use very much.
Do you find that you that you do hurt people, and you're constantly trying to sort of smooth that over, or do you just kind of like you
Too
can't make
blunt.
you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs kind of thing?
No, I don't like to make people upset, but I do get really blunt. And as I've gotten older, now that I'm in my 40s, I've figured out that sometimes you have to say things a little bit more feely and kind of
Hmm.
catch this invisible vibe that's been going on that I just found out about. But usually I just like to say it. I like to just say it, just lay it out there, just tell me good or bad. Maybe you're going to hurt my feelings.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm going to hurt yours, but then we're not trying to figure out what each other's saying.
Sure. Okay, what about how well would you say you understand your own feelings? Do you know what's going on with your feelings like right away, or do you have to spend time like unpacking them?
Um, Sometimes I know how I feel. Not that I share that, like my own husband of 27 years doesn't know how I feel. Like he has to look at me and figure it out.
Hmm.
But um, I don't usually act on that at all. But sometimes I kind of push that down and I don't even know that I don't know. I know I'm upset, for example, about something,
Hmm.
but I don't know how upset I am until I start hearing myself say something or if I start crying, which I figured out I don't cry with people. I think that's weird, probably. Maybe people do that. Whenever I cry, I cry by myself. In my room
Yeah.
or my car, and then I shut it off and then move on because
Okay.
it's a work in progress because that's not very good, but that is how I am.
Well, it's just how you are. I wouldn't say it's good or bad. I think everybody's different. Um, so, would you say in the moment when you're dealing with other people's emotions, you're pretty stoic, and they're the ones who are kind of losing their shit? Or,
Well, yes, but sometimes they can make me cry, and I don't. I mean, like, so I work in healthcare, and
mhm,
so sometimes people die, and you have to save them. And if you can't save them, and their family is just beside themselves and crying very loudly, then I mean, sometimes that makes me sad, and
sure.
it's it's awkward. It's like you just feel bad, like you did what you could, but sometimes you just feel like it's just a sad situation to see them so upset, and so that will make me cry sometimes.
Mhm, mhm. Okay. Um, I'm going to ask you a couple of like challenge questions. You've probably seen these from the other videos I've done, so I'm going to try to figure out ways to mix it up a little bit, um, so that it can kind of catch you off guard. Um, you may be aware of the convergence test that I do. Um, so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you three things, and I'd like you to tell me five things that those three things have in common as quickly as you can. Um, and that'll just help me gauge how quickly you can find universality of things. Um, So the three objects that I'd like you to think about are a ham sandwich, a volcano, and an ant.
And what they have in common,
What do those
or
three
what
what do those three things have in common?
they can all be hot because there could be a fire ant.
Okay,
They could all be they could all be outside. They could all be at a picnic.
sure.
Um,
I'd hate to go to the volcano picnic.
you you could do it. Um, and they could be in Hawaii.
Sure. That's four.
Um, they could be near your house.
Sure. Okay, that's five. Great. So next, I'd like to ask you the kind of the divergence question. So could you give me five unconventional uses of a glove that have nothing to do with like putting it on your hand?
Um, well, you still have to put it on your hand, but you could use it for an oven mitt,
Okay, that's one. I
which
mean,
is not conventional.
I would say that's pretty conventional, but let's yeah try to think more outside the box if you can.
Not like a winter glove. You wouldn't normally think to do that, but you could. Um, you could use it to dust something.
Okay.
Uh, I don't know why you would, but you might be able to wash dishes with it.
Okay.
I don't know. Um, how many is that?
That's
Three?
three.
I have to come up with two more. Something you would do with a glove that's not like a normal thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, you could keep your feet warm with it.
Okay.
You could tie it in your hair. That wouldn't work very well.
Okay. All right. Good. Um, so let's see here. Um, who is your who is your nephew's sister's father to you?
Well, that would be my brother-in-law. Could be my brother, but my brother doesn't have a boy.
Okay. And what about your father's sister's daughter? What is she to you?
Cousin.
Okay. Um, if um,
Am I stumped?
no, no. I'm on the. I feel like I might be on the right track now. With where I'm going, so it's like I have a few hunches, and I just need to disqualify my hunches as much as I can. Um, let's see here. I want to get as far as I can in the next 10 minutes here. Would you say that do you feel do you feel boxed in when there's too much of a plan, or in other words, do you do you prefer to keep it open ended, so that you have room, if you have the freedom to change the plan last minute, or do you prefer to create the plan structure for yourself um, so that you feel safe about any of the improvisation that's going to happen?
I like everything to be clear.
Hmm.
I like I like it to be planned, but I like to plan also like if there's gonna be free time, I want to plan that.
Hmm.
Like this is free time.
Hmm.
Whenever we go on cruises, one of the things that is not, it didn't originally come natural to me, but my husband is not a planner, nor will he ever be. And so one of the things that we do when we go on cruises is to not plan. But that's not normal.
Sure.
That's just like that's kind of a compromise for vacation, and it works really well because then I can get out of my box and then we can enjoy ourselves, and then whenever we come back to our life, I can do my thing again.
Sure, sure. So your natural state is to to plan those kinds of things out, and then once in a while you'll
Yes, I think
compromise, kind of.
uh, probably started in sixth grade or so. I kept a calendar, and on that calendar had it like in my purse had every single little thing that I was gonna do, and then I was had so many things to do. Sometimes I block off a day to. I would even plan that.
Okay. Um, um, making good progress here. Whew. Let me think this through here. I'm trying to think of where I want to go next. Um, are you? What is your relationship with like physical activity as far as like sports? You name it. Like anything physical. It doesn't have to be sports. Could be like physical, like woodworking or
Uh,
putting things together or just
it's not something that comes naturally unless it's something that your brain does. My workout is in here.
okay.
So, I mean, I do running, but it's not something, it's just something that I wouldn't say that I'm ever going to be at the Olympics or that I even really liked it initially, but it's something I pushed myself to do. But no, I am not naturally athletic. Like, no.
Okay.
I try hard though, but it's not this.
Okay. I get it. So it's not a natural aptitude, I guess, for you.
No.
You mentioned that you're up here a lot. So what do you mean by that exactly?
I like to think a lot. And I think about things and I don't say everything that I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so people think that I'm really shy, which I guess I kind of am, but I'm not a doormat. There's like a big difference. So I'm not a real big pushover, and they don't find out until later, but they think just because you're quiet and you're not saying everything means that they can just manipulate however they want to or
Sure.
assume things, and I don't always go along with what people want. And they kind of get surprised whenever I kind of put my foot down and say, no, I have an opinion. Like, I'm not doing that.
Okay. So do you always have an opinion? It's just you're not sharing that?
Um, a lot of times I'll have an opinion. Sometimes I don't care. Sometimes I'm neutral with it. Like, where do you want to eat? Like, if the people at work want to eat something, like, I really don't care where they want to eat. I'm not gonna push it. Like, whatever they want, I will find something. But I like to eat the same thing.
Okay.
Like, go to this restaurant, I already know. Even though I want to look at the whole menu, I'm gonna get the same thing I got last time.
Got it. So, why do you suppose you get the same thing at the restaurant all the time?
Um, because I know I like it.
Okay. And is it because you don't want to have a bad experience? Is that sort of like what it's about?
Maybe so. That's what my husband thinks. Like, if it doesn't taste good, I don't want to, I don't,
Are you sort of like averse to having a bad experience?
I have a very good memory.
Mm-hmm.
I remember dates and times, and I can just think about something that happened at, I mean, even at age 6, I can think about different things that happened, and
Mm-hmm.
even different friends that I used to hang out with or used to have a really strong relationships with.
Mm-hmm.
All I have to do is think about it, and I can remember how they looked and what it looks like. It's like a movie in there. So
Sure.
I have to be careful. Even if, I mean, I like some horror movies, but if it gets like too violent, like it's very, very vivid for me. So I
Uh-huh.
have to monitor what I'm watching because I will remember it forever. Good, bad.
And is the thing that you're remembering uh mm, are you more likely to remember the image of the horror movie or how you felt about the image? In other words, is the image what comes back and haunts you, or is the
I think
feeling?
first I I I see the image and then I get the feeling.
Okay. So it's not like uh let me ask you this, and it's kind of tangential, and you may not know why it's tangential, but for me it's tangential. Um, how good or bad are you at learning from your mistakes? Like, do you make the same mistakes sometimes over and over again because you've forgotten sort of, oh, I have actually made this mistake before?
Well, I jump to the wrong connection sometimes,
Okay.
and in time that's how it is. This is what happened. This is why this went wrong, and that will
Mm-hmm.
never happen again. But sometimes it's the wrong connection. Like it's the wrong that it went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that happens, then I end up back to the start of that loop again. But um, if
What is the
I
loop? What is the? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Continue your thought, and then I want to ask what the loop is.
if I do something that is wrong, that was like breaking the policy at work or something, or I
Mm-hmm.
didn't follow it quite right because I didn't have the knowledge. If you tell me, I will be completely embarrassed, and that will never happen again.
Okay. And why will it never happen? Because you're it's because of the embarrassment that you faced because of getting it wrong, right? That's what it is. It's like
I don't, yeah, I don't want to be wrong. I want to know
is is it
what's
about
going on. I
i-
never want to be wrong. It's okay if you're wrong because
is it about being wrong or is it about being humiliated? Or is it both?
yes, it's both for me. Like I don't, it's I'm not somebody that, because there are people out there like that, so I don't want to say the wrong thing. Like, I don't want to give you the wrong idea. I'm
Sure.
not somebody that can ever say that I'm wrong because I can. I don't like to be criticized, but who
Uh-huh.
does? But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just have to cop up to that. But I'm such a perfectionist.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever have to tell me I'm wrong again, I don't want that to ever happen again. Now, if there's a rule that I don't agree with, well, then I'll just have to be wrong. But
Sure. Is
if it's something that's very obvious, like, maybe next time don't do it this way because the policy says this or whatever, if it makes sense to me,
uh,
then I don't want to be wrong again, and I won't.
would you be happy in a world without policies if you didn't have to follow policies?
No,
No, you prefer to have policies in place?
I absolutely need some sort of a guideline of how to do things. I mean, it is so important, especially, I mean, in my line of work, there's places where that really belongs. But in
Mm-hmm.
my line of work at the hospital, if I come in and I do a procedure one way and they're doing it, somebody else comes in and does it another way, and then even the order of the medication is just
Mm-hmm.
extremely important at times. And so, how else are we all going to be on the same page if we have some page
Now,
to
do,
tell?
now that makes a complete sense from a healthcare standpoint, right? But like, do you follow that same method at home, like in cases where life and death does not depend on it?
Well, So like with friends, if they say they want to go out, then I can try to go with the flow, but I really need to know how many people are coming to this party if I'm hosting it. Who's
Yeah.
coming, who's not coming. Um, what time are we gonna meet? Because how else am I gonna know? Like, are you gonna show
Right.
up at 8 and I show up at 10? Like, just when I have a lot of anxiety if I don't have complete, clear understanding of who's doing what and when is it happening.
Sure, sure, sure. Yep, that makes sense. Um, okay. We're about halfway through it. We're at the 30-minute mark as well, so I'm making good progress on my end. Um, so let's take our break now, and we'll come back for part two. How do you feel?
Um,
How do you feel like it's going so far?
well, I can't see the screen,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna guess you're doing a good job.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks for your vote of confidence. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. All right. So for the viewers at home, thanks for sticking with us for part one. Go ahead and check out part two, and or I guess I'm part B, right? And we'll see you in part B.